Speaking of which, homework. There is a CIS policy which limits the amount of homework each student is supposed to do each day. Please have a look at that and make sure if your child, the homework is supposed to be delivered not in terms of task, but in terms of time. For instance, I think they might be asked to spend 30 minutes working on a task. Don't worry if they're not completing it. Please communicate if you're at all concerned if they're not doing enough work, as you imagine, or too little, but primarily bear in mind our mission is to evoke quality in their homework rather than quantity. They might just be sitting there having a think, reflecting, composing. These things take time, as we all know. So, allied to this, assessment and reporting. We have 3 criteria which progress all the way from year 7 to 11. They're assessed on content, the substance of their work, organization, the transitions and the logical sequencing of their ideas, and finally style and language use. Is it sophisticated? Is it fluent? Is it interesting? Is it accurate? Is it succinct? And based on those 3 criteria, each assessed out of a grade of 10, they're awarded, what do we call it? An attainment level? A number based on, hopefully, anywhere between 7, 6, 5, 4 down to 3, 2, 1. So, we've tried to give you a couple of snapshots of what the students are doing. This was to have been a quite charming performance of the Odyssey, fittingly, a famous journey, by a Year 8 student. Unfortunately, apparently the video doesn't work. And we don't have a live child to actually deliver it for you. Instead, we can give you another work in progress. This is a Year 13 student. Her final oral examination, she's presented with a passage from a text she's studied. We have a more complete version to show you right at the end. And she's given 20 minutes in a room by herself to prepare a detailed analysis. So here it is a little bit of this student's...
A black wild boar, the stark contrast to the whitened landscape. And it's appeared majestically out of the trees, with tusks that turn his quiet face into hair-lip deformity. He gives this boar very stately description of the idea of being majestic, of having a quiet face, of being magnificent and keeping his polite distance. But at the same time, we get hints of the wild and the dangerous in the boar, his tusks and that hair-lip deformity of his face.
Thank you, Ms. Euro. I'll just finish by telling you a little bit about the diploma program. In the English department, we offer 2 programs. One is A1 standard and the other one is A2, standard and higher, and A2. The A1 program builds on the skills that we have taught the students in years 7 to 11 and encourages and enables students to develop clear and effective writing, to be able to express themselves confidently, and to gain a knowledge of a range of literature from a number of cultures and from the English canon and a range of modern texts as well. The content is 15 texts for the higher level students and 11 texts for standard level. And there's a range of poetry, as we've said, with the younger students, short stories, a range of genres and periods and places. And we assess them, the IB assesses them in both what they write and what they perform orally in 2 particular oral presentations or commentaries, one of which you have just heard a fragment from. The work is externally moderated and assessed, and some of it is partly assessed internally, but the IB moderates that internal assessment to ensure that there is comparability across the IB world. The A2 program is very similar to the A1 program, but there is more of an emphasis on a variety of texts that are not necessarily literary. There are a number of literary texts, but there are also texts that deal with media and help students to understand the world around them and to engage with various aspects of modern culture. So they also have an assessment that is similar to the assessment for the A1 students. It's both written and oral. So what we've done tonight is just very quickly flash you through the English program, which is really all about not travelling through the same world, but beginning to see things differently, to engage in ways that are enriching and developing. And perhaps we could end with giving you a brief look at a student who, again in year 13, has made this journey.
So this passage begins with Hamlet saying, "I shall in all my best obey you, madam," addressing Gertrude directly. But we know that Claudius, in fact, has made the request for Hamlet to stay, which shows Hamlet actually ignoring Claudius and clearly addressing only Gertrude, quite deliberately, we think. But then Claudius attempts to restate what has just happened, as he does very often. We see this many times, by saying, "Why, 'tis a loving and fair reply," and then referring to this gentle and unforced accord of Hamlet, which as the audience we find ironic, as we know that it was not in fact gentle or unforced. And so Claudius is trying to redefine events simply by stating them as he wishes them to be seen.
And that's an extraordinarily sophisticated analysis of a passage that a student has studied but did not know that she was going to get and only had 20 minutes to prepare. So the transformation from year 7 to year 13 is something that we find quite remarkable, and I'm sure that you notice this in your sons and daughters as well. Thank you very much.